Hi, my name is Carlos Regalado Figueroa. I'm a student at Cal State LA doing my master's in Latin American Studies, and I am here at Flash Enterprises Boxing Academy with my coach.
How are you? My name is Jorge Diaz. I'm the owner of Flash Enterprises Boxing Academy.
All right, I'm here with Coach George.
How are you? How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Do you want to tell us where we are right now?
We're actually in my boxing gym, Flash Enterprises, Boxing Academy. So
nice. And
trying to do a little interview with you. So
yeah. So today we're going to be talking about George, and we're going to be going through his early childhood and growing up, and his early career as a boxer, going through his amateurs and his professional fights, and what his life was inside the ring and as a fighter. So you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if you could just guide us through what it was like, you growing up, where you grew up, and whatever you'd like to share.
I was a pretty mellow, shallow kid. Very introverted, not really sociable.
Mm-hmm.
I was not sociable at all.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, I remember preschool was pretty fine. I enjoyed going to preschool, but here in North Hollywood, where we lived at. But when I got to kindergarten, that's when I think I didn't want to be in class.
Mm-hmm.
Used to cry before I used to go to class or to the classroom that I recall and I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So, but most of my childhood, I was just introverted, stuck to myself. I had race I wasn't really sociable with kids, So I kind of stuck to myself. So, my first elementary school I was here in North Hills, Langdon Elementary.
Yeah.
That I went to school at from my first to my third grade, but also I repeated the third grade because I wasn't able to read as well.
Okay.
I had trouble reading, so not comfortable in socializing. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy school? Like, even though you were struggling in it, did you enjoy it?
No, I never did. Never did.
What did your parents think at the time?
They wanted, of course, like any other parents, Hispanic parents, they wanted to do good in school, get good grades, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think around that time, I repeated the third grade, I left Langdon, and I went to another elementary school. I don't know if that was if that's the city of I don't know if it's Panorama, but I lived in Arleta for a few years, and then before the Northridge quake, so I went to Liggett Elementary School. So the third grade again till I was at a elementary till middle school.
And what was your family like? Who, your mom, your dad, where are they from? Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother that also boxed. He was more of a fighter than I was. I used to take piano classes, so my dad put me to music. He just thought it was a better way for us. Everything we did was basically, hopefully, to better our lives, but I don't think he knew what was really entailed in those type of the music. He didn't really know what was really involved in it. If we took it as a career, I'm not saying that was my passion, but I think I was too young for piano classes. Like I said, I was just a very introverted kid. I wasn't really. I had a couple friends, but it wasn't really like, oh my God. And plus, my parents were very strict. Didn't really let us out.
Yeah.
Because I think around that time, my mom was always worried about pedophiles. That's probably the biggest thing my mom was worried about.
Yeah. And where are your parents from?
My mom's from Guatemala. It's Guatemala. It's probably a city by the border of El Salvador.
Okay.
And my dad's Colombian. He's from the city of Bucaramanga, border Venezuela. So yeah.
Okay. And they did immigrate here?
Yeah, they immigrated here in the 70s, and then they met out here in North Hollywood.
Oh, nice. So they met out here.
Yeah, they met out here because I think my dad was living in Pasadena when he came here with his cousins.
Yeah.
And his older sister who was here, I think, I don't know, 2 years or 3 years before he arrived. And my mom came out here by herself and met up with other people that were from Guatemala that she was basically roommates with.
Oh, okay.
And that's how they met, very little about them. So.
And what was that culture like, them being from two different countries, not Mexico, we're in a very Mexican dominant state. How was growing up like that?
I didn't see too much. I wasn't really, most of the people I was involved were very Hispanic orientated.
Yeah.
I think I have a little bit Salvadorian in the family as well. So orientation about Mexican, Guatemalan, Colombian. I used to think Colombia was a place, not a city, not a country. I thought Colombia was like a place where my dad went because he always spoke about Colombia. So I didn't, being a kid and being very naive about where was Colombia, where was so-and-so. I don't even think Guatemala was basically in the conversations till later in my middle age, till middle school.
So you didn't really put too much attention into being Hispanic or what culture was, or that sense of pride that maybe some Mexicans
it was never a thing. I just I was always around a lot of Mexicans and we saw the Mexican pride, very proud. You're American, you're born here, you consider yourself Mexican. I didn't understand the dynamic to an extent. I didn't understand it.
So for you it was I was born here. I'm born
here, because I'm not really culturally inclined with my. I'm gonna take that back. I'm probably more inclined with the Guatemalan side because I associated more with my Guatemalan family, my grandma, my aunts. My Colombian side was never really something I was involved because I really didn't meet. Even my father doesn't have a Colombian accent. He has more of a Central or maybe Mexican accent. I would say Central American more. But
did he get here at a young age?
Yeah, he came here and I don't know. He was probably 16 or something.
Oh, he was very young.
Or 17. Yeah, something like that. I can't recall.
Probably did a little school here and stuff.
No, he didn't go to school. I don't think he just went directly to work.
Okay.
He had the dream.
Yeah.
Trying to box, and he tried to do soccer or boxing. Those were the two sports that he enjoyed. So
your dad boxes. Wow.
Yeah, he boxed in Colombia. He did self-training that he tells me, because in the beginning, he was the one that was training me and my brother. But even though we were going to gyms, he wanted us to be like his favorite fighters, like Antonio Cervantes, Kid Pampele, and Rodrigo Valdez, who was middleweight champion, who fought Carlos Monzon. So those were guys that my dad spoke about, Julio Cesar Chavez. Now, when Oscar De La Hoya came around, he was kind of like the poster child. In the beginning, it was mostly Ali, Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, before Oscar. I'm talking about early 90s, like in the very beginning of the 90s.
So now that we're kind of turning into boxing, when did you start boxing? What was you growing up as a boxer with your dad and your younger brother? What was that like?
It was a bit rough because I was never a fighter. I used to get beat up as a kid. Yeah. My younger brother, who's actually, if you ever meet him, he's actually physically bigger than me. No, you've met him, but I'm saying for the people they meet him, he's actually physically bigger than me. Yeah. So, but as a young age, he was a bit shorter than me.
Yeah.
To middle
what
school.
Age did you start?
I started boxing at 9.
Very young.
But my dad used to kind of buy us gloves when we were a lot younger, and had me and my brother just put on the gloves and throw punches at each other.
Okay.
At that time, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like getting hit. And when we used to watch boxing, I found it kind of boring. Yeah. I wasn't really. It didn't really caught my attention in the very beginning. So, and plus I wasn't a fighter, so I don't want to be fighting. I don't think I didn't have the temperament for it.
Yeah. What do you mean by that, temperament? You were too scared, or?
I was scared, and plus my brother used to beat the dog out of me in little living room sessions we had with the gloves, he got the better out of it. So I'm like, I don't like this. So it wasn't, but then I was doing the music piano classes. I enjoyed it, but not really too invested in it.
Yeah.
Like, I think drawing was more my investment. That was my get away from everything. I used to love to draw.
You were very creative when you were young.
Yeah. Creative, but self-preserved, stuck to myself.
So you started boxing at like 4 or 5 with your brother, and you were in your living room, and then you transitioned to going to the gyms at 9 years old. Your dad assisted you?
No, we started boxing at 9 at the house. We started training at home. Yeah, my dad started training us at home, He started taking us to go run outside the neighborhood, the block, and then that was how we started. And he'll train us. He bought a bag. Remember this, the 90s, you didn't have internet. You have to look to the blue page to find out where were the boxing gyms. They weren't around. We didn't know where to go. So I think the other thing I was very kind of like caught my eye was martial arts, karate, Bruce Lee. I think that was like an idol that I liked. I used to try to kick, but my dad said that's not something to do. There's no money involved in that. And then he kind of turned us to boxing. That was the reason why he used to put us in the living room boxing each other. And when the music I wasn't really invested in the music. I just thought he just took us to the other route and started taking it was a martial arts gym, but they had boxing. Oh, that's how we started. Yeah, he found a place, and that was around middle school.
Okay, so in middle school is when you started going to gym.
To actual gym, yeah.
Started maybe working with like sparring with other people.
Yeah, one kid used to beat us up in the beginning. Yeah.
And so your dad was actually looking at making you guys fighters to eventually turn you guys professional. So it wasn't more like a hobby. It was more like.
Yeah, it was more because I think nowadays people open up gyms basically just to teach classes because I think it's a better way to make people work. I own a gym because, of course, I like the atmosphere of a gym, but I think my goal is more creating than just getting people in shape. Because I don't consider myself a fitness coach. I don't put myself in that category, even though it is somewhat fitness. But you get in shape, but it's not really my love. My love is basically I like to see the youth evolve and become something that they were never capable of doing.
Yeah.
Kind of like physical therapy. Yeah. Boxing is very, 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 I'm going to say complex. Like, you got to go through a lot of stages.
And that passion that you're talking about right now, being a coach, like when you said you didn't really like fighting, you weren't a fighter, when did you feel that start coming into you? That passion for the sport?
That's when I started going into the gym.
In middle school, you said?
Yeah, when I started going to the gym, I started seeing more.
And how was that process like? What was the timeline of you, getting in there for the first time?
It was basically right away because the thing is, because me and my brother used to bring friends from middle school and bring them to our house. We used to do that backyard boxing and try to do little belts, little championships, and we were kind of like fighting each other. Brother. I had another friend that was actually, his father was actually a fighter that actually went to with Joe Goosen, and he had some skill, but he also took martial arts. Yeah. So he was another one that was involved with us. And backtracking to before I went to the gym, we just trained at home, and then.
Your dad would train you, right?
Yeah, would train us, would make us hit, like he would say, like my father, it was funny how he trained us because he'll be inside the house and tell us, if I don't hear that back for at least an hour, you're not stopping. And me and my brother would look at each other like, okay, you go first. We'll take it. Then when I'm there, we'll hit the bag correctly, but after a while you get tired, you start hitting with your palm or whatever. We just did whatever just to make noise.
Yeah.
So my dad would make us for an hour, and then we could stop training because
Yeah.
It was simpler back then than what it is now. People now is like the pad work. I don't even think we did pads. I don't remember. And I think when my dad did pads, it was more than we were actually going to a boxing gym. I don't even think he ever did pads before. So we used to spar with my dad. I think pro boxing had a place in Japan Canyon, Woodland Hills, Canoga, were, borderline. We found that place and we bought a pair of gloves, and then my dad started boxing with it. And then the pad, they were not the greatest gloves, and the padding came out, and my dad hit me and gave me a black eye. So talk about child abuse, but it was something that happened. So we used to box with our dad, and then sometimes me and my brother would mess around, but it wasn't as hard as it was in the beginning.
Yeah. And then, so once you got to the gym, you've been boxing for a while. What was that like? Yeah.
The Olympic was basically the goal. Our goal was the Olympics.
Oh, so you were trying to compete.
I was trying to compete.
Okay, immediately. So when you got to the gym, just when you found the love, like immediately.
Yeah, immediately. It's just I felt something. I felt a part of something. That was basically the feeling.
Okay.
I felt part of something.
And you always struggled with that, right? Something.
And then in school. And back then boxing was not really mainstream like today. People talk about it because social media, influencers, et cetera. But if you didn't talk boxing, I didn't have a conversation. I could have known you, but if boxing was not in the conversation, I wasn't talking.
That's all you wanted to talk about. That's all you wanted to do.
That's all I wanted to do.
So did you start competing? What did you start doing?
We started competing. Yeah, we did. I think competing, we started like around 12.
These are amateur bouts?
Yeah, amateur bouts, yeah. So we were already training at the gym. At the place was called House of Champions. Back in the mid 90s, like 95, 94. Yeah, it was probably 94. And then we were there for maybe a year and a half, but we didn't see the coaches were not really. They were switching coaches. One of the coaches that trained us in the beginning, he is actually a boxing trainer till this day. But he trained us for the first day, and then we had different trainers that now that I look back to it, they were not boxing trainers. They were kickboxing. They were actually kickboxing guys, but they were teaching boxing.
You said you were in this big martial arts gym, right?
Yes. Not as big as the place is now, because the guy who owns the gym, Mark Pera, who owns the gym, he's still right now in business.
Oh, wow.
This I'm talking about, this is now going on 30 years now.
So your coaches for the amateurs, they were kickboxing coaches?
The first coach that took us to an amateur fight, he quote unquote knew some boxing, but we didn't stick around so long with him because we didn't feel the gym at the time was not really invested to boxing. We were trying to look for serious gyms that was going to take us to compete. Because that was the goal. You train to fight. That's what we're trying to do. So after we left House of Champions, we ended up they introduced us to Ten Goose, but we didn't land there because at the time they didn't open like they do now. Like right now, they train people, the clientele. They say in the afternoon. Back then, it was only in the morning. Joe just opened in the morning, and we saw, my dad was always the one going around searching for people, searching places. So my dad, we had my cousin's relatives from his dad's side. They knew that there was a gym where they lived here in Van Nuys. So my dad went, they didn't see anything, so we went to another gym after House of Champions. We went to this place. It was run by the LAPD, the Jeopardy program. They tried a lot of troubled kids. So when we went there, not because we were troubled kids, we were never getting in trouble. It was for us was basically from the house to the gym, back home. That was basically our lives. Very simple. So like I say, the whole Hollywood scene, like it was for me, Hollywood was on the other side of the country. So even though I lived, but like maybe like 8 miles away from Hollywood, I didn't even know. I just thought Hollywood was like on the other side of the country. The whole that's just another version of my life. It was very simple. So going back with we went to the Jeopardy program. We stuck there, didn't get us no fights. We were there for a while. We were beating up all the sparring partners who were probably older than us, me and my brother, and then we ended up actually somebody at Tengus told us to go to that place. That's how we found out. Because we already knew about let me retract. We already knew about Joe Goose and Tengus and everything, but they wouldn't open in the afternoon, so they told us to go to Jeopardy. That's how we went. So after a while, we were stuck there, no competition, no fights. We ended up going to the, what's that gym in the Gonzalez, by the projects, Gonzalez Park in, by Pacoima, by the projects. Is
that Pacoima boxing?
Yeah, Pacoima boxing, yeah. It was basically, it was Gonzalez Park, I think it's called, the park.
The one they just made, right?
Yeah. So we ended up going over there after the Jeopardy program. There's when they started being more consistent. We stayed there. We had a few fights. That's when we got introduced more to the amateur program. A lot of the guys in here had a lot of competition. Me and my brother were getting beat up for a while. We were getting beat up. I was getting beat up. I was very small. Like I say, I was very small. I weighed like no more than 100 pounds. I think when I turned my first amateur fight at the House of Champion, I only had one fight. Oh, quote unquote, 2 fights. One was no contest. We fought outside, Baldwin Park, in the rain, and they stopped the fight. So by the time we went to Pacoima, I had quote unquote 2 fights, but it was one fight. So. And that's when we started being more active over there. We ended up having a few more fights, but more Mexican. That's when I started getting more Mexican, because the more Mexican pride, because I grew up with Tyson, Ali, Leonard, Nordic Taylor, De La Hoya, but De La Hoya was not really. De La Hoya was the poster child, but I think Tyson was more my inspiration to boxing, because shorter man, smaller man. So I think that was my inspiration. But so I was buying like the little autograph thing that they sold, and people were telling me, "Why are you buying Tyson? Why you don't buy Chavez?" I'm like, these are not the guys that I grew up watching. Like, it's not. I didn't like Chavez, even though. Now, being older and seeing a lot more of him, he was a great champion, like great fighter. But at that time, no internet, nothing involved. You were very limited in seeing things about certain fighters. You saw what was active. So at that time, that was when I started seeing the difference in the Mexican pride, the proud, and then being Guatemalan / Colombian, but I'm gonna say more Guatemalan. Guatemalan, Salvadorian, they have a little rivalry against Mexicans. So now I kind of said like, okay, Mexicans, okay, they always think they're proud, but now I know why. It's a business. If you really look at soccer, like when has Mexico ever missed a World Cup? Exactly, they bring too much money.
Yep.
So it's politics, like I say, it's business, money. So and then. Going as an amateur, I started noticing the difference. The more Mexican. Even though my father would say certain fighters like the Zaragozas, the Salvador Sanchez, and many other, Lupe Pintor, Pepino Cuevas, great champion from Mexico that I would talk about, but like I said, not exposed to them as much. I was more exposed to Tyson. And Tyson, I think when I saw him for the first time, actually on pay-per-view, it was when he came out of jail, around the time after the rape case that he came out, when he came out of prison. So that was like my inspiration. So when he lost to Evander, I was kind of like, whoa, I was kind of a little heartbroken at that time.
So he will lose.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, my hero just lost. I'm like, how can he lose? Like, and then the rematch happened. He beat the guys here. I'm like, how can you do that? What happened? So that's certain things that I had trainers, but excuse me. But there were most trainers nowadays, in my opinion, it's just they work with you and what you bring to the table. So I think that's the thing is I learned throughout the years that you got to get into people's minds. You got to get to learn the individuals you're working with, especially as a trainer. And me being a fighter, sometimes I was mostly losing most of my amateur fights. I'm like, I never felt that good. I never felt like I belonged. I didn't feel like I'm not gonna be good. What's wrong with me? What's going on? But I was always the smallest one amongst bigger guys, so everybody was bigger than me.
And how did you said you were losing, and this is a place you found as home. You know, you were happy here, and then you started competing, and you started losing, and you kind of started, like, it seems like you were losing your sense of love for the sport, and if you did, how did you combat that? Like your emotions in the sport?
I had a hard dad. I think that was the excuse me. I think that was my dad was very, I think the worry was every time I was sparring, I'm always looking over like, oh, my guy's mad. I already knew his expression. He was mad. So he was like, he always wanted us to be number one. Even though we were sparring professionals, we started going to Tengus. I think he met up with Joe, and then Joe told him, "Man, bring him down." That's when my dad. We started sparring with the Rellas, like Gabriel Rellas. Like I sparred with Gabriel Rellas. He knocked me out with a body shot. You know, I felt a little cocky because at the time I was kind of feeling myself, and I was touching him up. I'm like, I'm touching this world champion. I'm hitting him. So I kind of started staying in the pocket with him. He just went pop, hit me with a left hook to the body. Boom! Dropped me with a body shot. At that time, Lucia Riker was training over at Tengus. And Tengus had a lot of guys. So it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain because sometimes I think about like I can't believe I've been in the sport for so long now. Now thinking back, like sometimes my time frame goes around. Sometimes like I might be this time frame, but and then I kind of jump to another time frame when I feel like that it was actually closer around time, but it's not. It was actually a little period of time, or I get them mixed up. Like I was at Tengus before I went to Pacoima. You know, sometimes I get them mixed. I get confused because everything was such, like for me, felt going back to back. So in Pacoima, I didn't feel I was that good, but I knew I was better because at the time I was sparring professional fighters here at Pacoima, at Tengus. I should be beating these kids, but.
Were you still an amateur?
Yeah, I was still an amateur. I was only about 15. Yeah, it was like ninth grade. I remember. So.
And you were already sparring pros?
We started sparring pros at 11, I think. Oh, no, not. Yeah, 11. I think it's 11. Wow. Yeah. At 11.
These were hard sparrings? When you get
to us, it felt hard because, we were kids. So, because I remember sparring my brother when we were professionals, and he was hitting me. I thought he was hitting me with everything he got. But realistically, I was a 118 pounder. He was 147, maybe walking around 165, 170, and I was walking around 128. I felt that he was hitting me hard, but realistically, now going back to it, he wasn't. It just my temperament. I got emotional, and I did something I shouldn't have done, but I bit him. I know I bit him, but But yeah, I busted the Tyson on him. So not his ear, but in the chest. Because I felt like he was hitting me. But so there's a lot of things that in my life that I felt like I wasn't really. I wish I could have had a trainer that would have grabbed me, trained me, and said, "You got to learn the basics, learn everything, understand what you're doing." And that was the problem. I mostly learned by watching fights.
You think trainers didn't really put too much attention into
you? Because back then, like I think trainers and they will see you. They threw in the first day you walked into the gym, you spar, you train. They saw you train, you hit the bags. Then the second day they'll throw you into the ring, and they saw how you did. You do shit out, great. Maybe we could do something. If you don't do shit out, then get you out. That's what happened with us in Pacoima. They put us in with the first day we trained. They looked at us. The second day they put us in with one of the newer kids. We beat the mess out of him. That kid never showed up that I remember. And then after that, they started putting us with the guys who had more experience, and we were getting beat up. But at that time, I said to myself, I should be beating up these kids. I'm sparring pros. But the system is very different from the amateurs to the pros. The amateurs, you got to be you got to be very quick. It's kind of more like, I'm not going to say like fencing, but you got to throw 3, 4, 5 punches, because it was, I think at that time was three punches, 1 point. So it was by point system. In the pro, you take your time, you put a roll, you go multiple rounds, pop, and then you catch them with hard shots. You set them up to basically land bigger punches. So what I understood at that time. So yeah, after a while, we started getting the groove in Pacoima until I dropped one of the guys that used to beat me up for for 2, 3 months. He beat me up until I dropped him, and then made me spar guys that were actually heavier. So yeah, and that became.
You were getting better.
I was getting better, but I was also a little older than most of the kids that were sparring. So the strength at those ages, 1 or 2 years, makes a big difference.
Do you think they started paying more attention to you after that? Or
No, they did. Because I think my brother was winning more tournaments, was winning the actual tournaments.
And you said you were struggling.
I was struggling, yes. I was struggling with the tournaments, not winning the fights. So I was, now going back, I understand why I wasn't winning. But going back with the situation, why we didn't stick around in Pacoima, because they had their favorite fighters. They were training. They didn't want to continue to go into the next tournament, and they kind of got hard with us. Hey, if you don't show up, we're not going to take you. And my dad was like, "What the hell?" Because we couldn't. I think at that time we had no ride. I think if we were we were living in Van Nuys when we were going to Pacoima. Yeah, we were driving there every day. There
wasn't buses like there is now either, huh?
Yeah, and we were not used to taking the buses. Yeah. My mom or my dad would not. We did take the bus, but going that far, going with bags and everything, my dad wouldn't allow us to go. Yeah. Even though that could have been something we could have done, but like I said, we were very secluded with a lot of things. There were things that we were very closed.
So when they told that to your dad, did your dad make more of an effort to take you guys every day?
No. This was, my dad was taking us every day.
Oh, okay.
No. It's just at that time my dad couldn't take them because it was a holiday. Oh, it was I don't know. It was around Thanksgiving weekend or something. Yeah. And my dad was working. Yeah. My mom and my dad both worked. So, yeah. So when we started going to the first boxing gym, my mom picked us up, dropped us off. My dad picked us up later on. So that was kind of like the system they had. They were doing their things as parents.
And how was your balance like with school? Like it looks like a big.
I didn't care about school. I was bad.
And did your parents care?
They did, but it was a bad situation for me. I was not the smartest kid. School was not something for me. I didn't graduate middle school or high school. Oh, I see. So I just didn't care about school.
You were just boxing.
Right? At that time by middle school, and I wanted to become world champion. My goal was to become a fighter. That was the goal.
And when you were in the amateurs and you were losing, did this strain your relationship with your dad or with your brother? Like, how were those dynamics like?
My dad was very strict. Like my dad had this like we were very strict in eating things, dressing a certain way. We couldn't really wear certain clothing. Like I think baggy clothes was the thing, you know. He didn't want us to be associated with gang affiliated people or anything. So even though we had friends that were, but that was the whole thing. My dad was very strict how we dressed, how we cut our hair, very strict. So we kind of followed until maybe around high school, 10th, 11th grade, we started wearing things more a little bit more comfortably. Well, we felt more comfortable. I think the whole thing was that we never felt comfortable. Like my friend would tell us, you guys live like illegal immigrants without being illegal. That's how my friend always told us.
Because you guys were very strict.
My dad was very strict, so that's how. Now that when she told me that, she told me this quote back when I was already in my late 30s, and I'm thinking like,
what did she meant by that?
because even until I was an adult, I always lived very careful. Like, don't break the law, don't do this, you know, don't fight. And she was one of the people that told us like, you gotta stand up to yourself, do things on your own. So she kind of shoved the backbone in my behind per se. Like she's the one that put, don't be yellow, man. You gotta stand up to yourself. So
you think your dad really just wanted to prove that you guys were like belong?
I think my dad was more of a control because was more of a control, like his way of that. Everything was his way of the highway. The world didn't work. You get a job, you do this, you do this. That's the way, and there's no other way. And the world doesn't work like that, especially today's society. You can't even get a 9 to 5 and live a great life. Please. I call this my prison because I live here. I'm not saying I live here, but I'm here from day to night. So, that's another conversation we're going to have. That basically owning the gym is not something is people think they think is glamorous. Really, you're a slave to the art, to the craft.
Did you feel like that as well when you were fighting, or you?
No, as a fighter, I never felt that way. I felt as a fighter, I felt more liberated. Like there was a purpose. There's a purpose as a trainer, but your work comes out of somebody else. As a fighter, you're liberated. Your work comes out of you, but also you got to understand who you have behind you. It could be coaches, parenting, friends, managers, investors. What is a very complex business that I don't think people will ever, it's never going to be the same way. There is a system that you can do it, but you got to understand you're working with different type of people. It's like, how can I say it? It's like, a lot of people ask me as a trainer, who's your best fighter? Who's my best fighter? It's like, I can't really say that, This is my most accomplished, but I think this is my most qualified. This is my smartest fighter. So it's like telling Jay Leno, what's the best car you got? They all drive differently.
There's a lot of layers to this.
Exactly. There's too many layers.
And what we're, going back to your fighting career and being an amateur, when did you decide you were like, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to turn pro?
Oh, I would have turned pro right away. I was still in high school, 17.
At 17 you turned pro?
Yeah, I didn't turn pro at 17. I wanted to turn pro at 17.
Oh, okay.
Like I would have turned pro 16, 17. I just wanted to get out of school. School was that was like, I'm going to say torturous, I felt. Because I never fitted in. A little awkward socially. I was awkward. Even though my other thing was I was a clothing freak. I like to match. So I was a little known for how I wore my clothes in high school. So I was a little bit of a matching freak. I'm gonna say, call me a freak or whatever, but I wanted to be perfect in everything I did. So So I never felt comfortable in my own skin. You know, I'm a short guy. I'm 5'3". But back then I thought I was taller, but I never felt comfortable with my own skin. Maybe with relationship with women, that was another thing. I kind of never felt awkwardly accepted. Like people were never gonna like me because of me. So this could go very deep.
Yeah.
That it'll take us somewhere else that we're not really talking about. But that's certain things that I was awkward and I felt awkwardly. Never felt like myself. I was always the smallest guy amongst a bunch of bigger dudes than me. So even my younger brother outgrew me. He became bigger than me, and then sometimes he was put as he was more in the spotlight because he had the look, he had the people's mean. I was kind of like the technician, trying to be cute as a fighter, trying to get hit, be like a Leonard Ali type. So that was my forte as a fighter. I want to look good. I want to look perfect. I want to humiliate my opponent, but in the business of boxing, that's not what they're looking for. They want that killer. They want you to be a destroyer in boxing. So there was a lot of things I didn't learn in boxing that I learned as a trainer, and I'm still learning. I'm not going to say, oh, I know it all. So boxing is a club that you have to be. They probably could bring you in, but if you're not what they want, or they feel that you're not demographically a certain way, they won't bring you. They won't accept you. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what was, if you could now walk us through that transition of turning amateur, turning into a pro, and walking us through those first, moments of you becoming pro and getting into your first fight. What was training? What was all that like?
Training was not really something that I did not really had trouble with the training. I kind of jumped into it right away. Right after I left high school, I jumped to it right away. I wasn't, like I told you, I didn't graduate high school.
Yeah.
So I kind of was ditching classes. Yeah. I would ditch school early and go to the gym and just hang out and then wait until school was over, go back home, pick up my stuff and go to the gym later that night. So that's where I wanted to be at. So in my last year of high school, 6 months out of high school, I turned professionally.
At 18? I'm assuming you were 18?
I turned 19 because remember this, I repeated the third grade and I was 18 and then I turned 19.
So at 19 you were a professional?
Yeah, December was December 23rd, 24th, no, 22nd or 23rd. Yeah. I don't know.
Did your dad push you into that?
I chose myself. My dad didn't push me.
What did he feel when he said he were turn pro?
That's your choice. Okay. So he later on in life, when I was older, he just decided he didn't push it. He just let us do what we wanted to do because he didn't think. He didn't want to be like today's parents that, I don't want to push my kids. But he did it already later in my life that he didn't want to push me. He wanted to see what we were going to choose to do. And I decided to turn pro. I'm going to say since 9th grade, that was my mentality.
Do you think he instilled that discipline in you when you were so young? By the time you were older, it was already part of it?
You kind of program yourself. Yeah. I don't know. It's just something that not everybody, like some people are built. Everybody's built differently, like you're very intellectual. You're going to Brown, you go into the university, a totally different world from LA. So me, I jumped into fighting because I wanted to do that. And that was something that I just wanted to do. It was like nothing was going to stop me. No girlfriend, nothing was going to stop me. That was at that time my mentality. Like, if I was dating somebody, that wasn't going to stop me. My parents weren't going to stop me. I wasn't letting nobody stop me to do what I wanted to do.
And what was, how'd it go? How did your first fight go?
I lost. I lost.
Where'd you have it?
I had it we had it at Pachanga. That was the Goosen promotion. Yeah, I was training under Joe Goose. I was at the Tank Goose with Joe Goose and my trainer, Jesse Arevalo, was training us. he trained us the last part of our amateur career, and then turned us pro.
Where's Pachanga?
Pachanga's Temecula.
Oh.
Temecula. Pachanga's the Indian Resort Hotel, the casino.
I see.
So Pachanga was the place, and then Temecula, in Temecula. So yeah, I had my first professional fight with a guy that my trainer used to train. He was 0-1, and I lost. I thought I won it, but
You lost by decision?
I lost by decision. Yeah, I think it was majority. I think it was majority. I can't recall. I gotta look it up.
How long after turning professional did you have that first fight?
No, it was 6 months out of high school.
Oh, that was your first fight?
Yeah, my first fight.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I didn't hesitate.
I thought you like registered and then you waited, but it was right away?
No, I was training. I was, like I said, when I left high school, I was in the gym.
Wow. So
Because,
19, first pro fight.
Yeah, at 19. So.
Do you know how old the guy that you fought was?
No, we're around the same age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're around the same age. Like, you gotta understand, no YouTube, no social media. BoxRec was very, I think at that time was not really, like now people go by BoxRec.
Yeah.
Was not really that important. So we just, I didn't even know I was gonna fight the guy until my brother actually went to, at the time was Valley Total Fitness. My brother went to the to the gym, to a sauna, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm fighting." And again, he saw the guy,
Yeah.
Adrian Cuevas, I think was his name. He said, "Oh, what's up, Adrian?" Because we looked at him as a friend. Because he knew we trained with us, he sparred with us. And then my brother told me, "Oh yeah, I talked to Adrian. He said he's fighting Jorge Diaz." I'm like, "What?" So I'm fighting him tomorrow. And and I asked my brother, "What was he doing?" "Oh, he was in the sauna trying to lose weight." "Oh, so you're fighting him?" My brother told me. I'm like, "Yes, I am."
That was the day before the fight?
Like a day before the weigh-in.
Wow.
Then I drove myself. My brother drove with me, and then we went to Pachanga.
Yeah. Was he also fighting that day?
No, we were fighting each other.
No, your brother.
No. My brother wasn't
Okay.
fighting. No, he was still in high school, so he wasn't fighting.
What weight were you fighting?
We fought at 115.
Wow.
We were supposed to fight at 112, but we were both overweight. So I think that was the first time that was the first official time that I had to make actual weight.
What was that like?
It was a little different, even though it was a little different. And then after that was more of a challenge. And then I kind of started learning how to control my eating. Because one of the fights that I did have, I did lose like 17 pounds in 3 weeks. So it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
And you were on the smaller side. So when you were cutting weight, it was a pound, I bet was.
Yeah, I fought at 114, I think it was a weight. I fought Benji Garcia, who was 6-1 or 6-2. And I was 1-1.
This is your third fight?
My third fight, yeah. Because the second fight I won it, and that was with I fought in Sopoba. It was another Indian resort out here that I fought. It was a Golden Boy card. I think Golden Boy was starting to, and actually another fight, a guy who became world champion, and we was a standout amateur out here in LA. Pachito, no, not Pachito. Mike Achondo. He was a former world champion. He was the main event. So, and I fought on the undercard.
You were on some pretty decent cards, right?
I fought that was one of the fights, but he was a up and comer. I think I fought under Fernando Montiel in San Diego. That's when I fought Benji Garcia with the guy who was 6-1. Then I lost. Yeah, I lost the 17 pounds. Yes.
How'd that fight go?
Oh, I lost that fight. I was walking around like a mummy. I think I lost. The weight affected me. The weight affected me.
And what was your mentality at this point? How were you feeling? You're 1-2. You're just finished your third fight. What are your coaches saying?
I drove back home and said, I'm okay. Let's back to the gym the next week.
So morale, you were still.
Yeah, I was just trying to go with the flow. I was just trying to be active. I was trying to get more going, but the manager I had at the time, he was just receiving calls. He wasn't really negotiating. Like I have somebody else helping me negotiate with one of my fighters. Like I said, boxing is like a special club. You gotta get. I'm partnering up with people that basically is gonna help me. Like right now, what I'm trying to do is I don't really care about who's the head trainer, who's the center stage. It's not about me, it's about the fighter. In most of society in boxing, I notice that everybody's worried about I'm the trainer, I'm the head guy. Yeah, I get it, but sometimes if you're not in it, you need to have somebody else guide you because, like I said, I was working with Joe Goosen. This is a trainer, of course, Joe Goosen, Hall of Fame trainer. And I enjoyed my time working with Joe. It's just I had to leave that gym because of other circumstances that didn't benefit me, and then in a financial aspect because I had to make a living at this time. At this time, I was already in my late 20s. I'm like, okay, almost going to my 30s. So that's when I opened up this gym after that. And then I had the business partner, and then that was another fallout.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
What was after your third fight, you were 1-2, went back to the gym. What were your trainers telling you at this time?
We didn't really talk about anything like that. We just went with the flow.
Just went with the flow.
I had a mentor of mine named Terry Washington. I think after that, he tried to help me, but also different decisions I made that basically didn't benefit me. So also, sometimes you get and that's why I was telling you earlier that sometimes you need a stable trainer, that somebody is gonna treat you and tell you like, this is how you do it, George, not this way. Like if I was able to train myself back when I was young, I would have been a different animal. But I was always worried about how I looked. Maybe a lot of the fights that I had that I lost, that I know I told people I thought I won them. Now I can understand why I lost them because of certain things I did. I didn't really understand what I was doing. And the training I had was not really up to par. Like I was doing certain things not because I didn't look the part. It's just I didn't understand what I was doing as a fighter.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I wasn't fighting I was not an aggressive fighter. I was trying to look like I think I told you earlier. I was trying to be a technician, boxer, puncher, look nice, not get hit. I think James Toney, Floyd Mayweather were more my guys I started picking on later in my life because, like I said, I wasn't. My dad taught us to fight tall and long. I have that problem. I'm not that tall. So that was an issue. So I had to learn how to fight. I had to learn how to be mobile, not get hit, roll with the shots. So, and the things I did, my trainers didn't teach me that. I kind of self-taught myself. What I watched certain fighters do, I kind of did it myself until the gentleman who I consider a mentor of mine, Terry Washington, he started making me understand, George, you do a lot of things, but what are you doing it for? What's the purpose behind this? Looks nice, but what is it that you're doing? Because I think another person that I learned a lot from sparring was Joel Casamayor. Like I think he's one of the best Cuban fighters that I stepped in the ring with. Even I used to Robert the Ghost Guerrero told me that I mimic him. I was a right-hander, so that I look so much like Casamayor that I moved around like him. Yeah, but I learned a lot, sparred him a lot. So I sparred him till he fought the first, I think the second Corrales fight. That was the last time I sparred Casamayor. But he was one of the guys I learned a lot from. That's sparring with. Mm-hmm.
And then what was your, going into your fourth fight? What was like that? What were your weight cuts like and all that?
The weight cuts wasn't too bad. I was after a while, kind of was good with my weight.
That's good.
I think that wasn't something I was able to eat. Because I kind of monitored how I ate. I stayed in shape. I was always in the gym. I was sparring when I didn't need to spar. I was always I think that's another thing that kind of I think could have affected me because I was so comfortable in the ring that even in the fights, I felt like I wouldn't get hit. So I kind of used if I wasn't too defensive, if I wasn't offensive, and if I was too offensive, I was too defensive. So I didn't really create my defense to create my offense. So I think that was the reason why Terry used to tell me, like, George, what are you doing? There's no using your defense, but you did this move, but you didn't execute after that move. So what is it? So those were the things that I think I had as a fighter that was a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how did your remaining fights go? And how old were you at the time?
At the time it just started choosing certain fights that I wasn't really fighting consistent. So in the 6 years that I was fighting, I was averaging 2 fights a year. So I'm not saying that was happening, but there was a year that we fought 3 times, and then I wouldn't fight. I'll be in the gym. Then a fight popped up. I got injured. I got a call, but because I missed the gym, so it wasn't. I was basically being used. They were trying to use me as a stepping stone.
I see. Because you were in tough fights still.
Yeah, you were gonna fight me if I was in shape. If you were gonna be in a fight with me, you were gonna be in a long fight. So they tried to catch me slipping. Like I remember, Giovanni Segura fractured my nose. Who was world champion. Bernabe Concepcion, who was a standout Filipino fighter from the Philippines, fractured my rib. I took time off. So that's around those times they offered me to fight. They actually offered me to fight Abner Morris. Yeah, but a week notice. I told them I take the fight because I said, give me time. And then they offered me to fight a Colombian world champion. I forgot his name. Shoot, I can't forget. I can't top of my head now. He fought also at 122, 118. He became world champion. They offered me to fight him. And I didn't take it because I'm like, dude, you guys are giving me short notices. I'm like,
when did they start doing this? After what fight?
After my 4th, 5th fight. The guy ended up with 12 pro fights. So I had a fight in TJ that is not really on my box rec record that I lost, but maybe things that I didn't do in that fight that I did idiotically that I shouldn't have done cost me the fight. Dropping my hand, the guy hit me, trying to prove my point. Like, this guy is nothing. Really trying to tell me he was a big puncher. I ate every punch and didn't do anything. But that probably cost me the fight because I fought in his hometown.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they started using you as a
as a challenger. And then my last fight, I fought a guy in a rematch that I lost to in my first fight, but
the first friend, right?
No. This was another fight. I fought him in my last fight that I had to switch up. He was trading at the wild card at the same time I was trading. So instead of me being an aggressive fighter, being aggressive at a box him, I was changing my strategy. They just say if I trained at 10 o'clock and you came at 11, so I'm sparring at 11, and then he came in. I was being aggressive. Then he came in, I just started being cutesy as a boxer, puncher. Because that's how I fought him the first time. And I thought I beat him, and I did. In the rematch, I fought him, dropped him in the first round, busted him up. I still got the decision, but come to find out, he was on the A side. I was on the B side. He was selling tickets. His manager was invested in him. So that's what the other part of the business that I didn't know nothing about when I was a fighter. So
right now, talking about it, you seem very calm, but I'm assuming in the moment you were very angry.
Yeah, more like what the hell? What the hell's going on? Maybe it wasn't meant to be.
When did you decide to just call it quits?
I still try to train for another 3 years. I think after I was about to turn 25 when I had my last fight. I was 24, went on 25. And I trained for another 3 years, but at that time I stopped working where I was working at. So financial, I separated with my former trainer. Well, not a former trainer, I mean manager that I had. I didn't feel like he was the guy to have as a manager. He was great, very nice, but certain things I didn't like. That I was trying to bring somebody. I was trying to bring Terry into the management. Okay, he brought us into the promotion, and my former manager at the time, he said some things that I didn't like. Like, I don't believe in that whole stick with your own kind, stick with your own race. I don't believe in any of that. I didn't get brought up like that. Like I said, the fighters my dad, I grew up watching, my dad idolized were black. Like, that's another thing. The racial profiling was another thing that is very involved in boxing now. It is more now, but that was not something that I was in tune in. I like the fighter because of the way he fought, not because what color skin is, how he looked, who he is, where's he from. No, it was none of that. How I grew up. So, yeah, he said some remarks because Terry he's black, he's Mexican descent. He's Mexican American, but he's more. He said some things that I didn't approve of. So I told him. Let me think about it. He brought in a contract, trying to manage it, trying to get us signed with the promoter. I'm like, wait. Terry just brought us in. He offered us this before you did. So what is? But he had other people that he knew that was a little corrupt in boxing that I didn't approve of. So that's the reason we didn't sign with him. And then we got involved with Terry. And then he got assigned with the promotion. But that person that was involved with the promotion kind of tore the promotion down. So Terry kind of pulls out the contract when he didn't feel like they were doing the right thing.
He never fought after that.
No, we fought after that, but it wasn't really. I was getting old, my record wasn't great. I ended up with a record of 4 wins, 7 losses. So not good on record. Like, in paper, I wasn't good.
Yeah.
I wasn't even great. I was just a local guy, but there was more potential that I could have done, but yes, in boxing, it's kind of like the prostitution game. It's the pimping game, So that's the thing. And sometimes fighters will get brought up a certain way quickly, and then they'll sacrifice them when they feel the money's right. Because sometimes, like they just say, investors are investing a lot of money, and they feel like, I'm not making no money with this guy. I need to. They'll get an opportunity to make some money plus whatever more, and they'll sacrifice fighters. So that's the reason why I always say that this game sometimes feels like people are looking for favors.
Yeah.
People are just looking for what they can get out of it. They'll use you. Like, I don't see myself as a big time trainer. I'm nobody famous. I've made an impact to certain people like yourself, and maybe throughout the years. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. That people know about me. I know trainers that are still training now that train me, or honestly train me, but we're training kids when I was a kid. So you see that involvement.
Yeah.
But those are the guys that are not part of the club, or not. Like, boxing is a special club, like a club that only the exclusive is accepted. Sometimes you got to work with certain people. You got to sacrifice certain things. And this, as a trainer and manager, you got to bring other people involved. As a fighter, you gotta be, if you're too much of naive, like how I was, you get caught up with the bullshit. That's the reason you have to be a little street smart. And I was none of that. I was not a street kid. I was not really involved in any type of any messed up situation in my upbringing. I was clean as a whistle. Never been arrested. Never had handcuffs. So now, being involved in this business, I've seen a lot that's changed my mind. Now I see a lot of things now that I could have done differently as a fighter. Like I said, I think I talked to Terry a couple weeks ago when I was taking a couple of my guys to get their amateur license. what could you done different, George? What could you have done? What were you thinking? I'm like, Terry, I wish I could go back and I will give one wish. If I chop then by the time I reach this age and I lose my right arm, I will go back to do everything all over again. But it didn't go like that. So unfortunately, it could have been a blessing because I don't know what type of person I would have became. You know, I could have became an asshole. I could have became arrogant because sometimes I was a little. I will have a mouth on me, but you know me, so you know it'd be enough to know. But at the same time, it was very different. It just the boxing world right now is a lot different when I was growing up. I think back then was an honor. It was still kind of like being a warrior, being something. Being a professional was like something. Now it's like anybody can turn pro. You got influencers that are making money, and like, dude, I put all this time and effort into it, and these guys are making money, but the internet, social media has changed the game. So we just gotta see, and we're still in it, and we just gotta see if we keep positive thing or we just shut down or move on, or we still continue with the game. And my opinion is I'm still continuing with the game because I don't see any other passion. What would I do? What would I do? I'm not an educated guy. I graduated high school, no college degree. What would I do? I think I'll be miserable. Be an Uber driver? Work at McDonald's? I don't think I couldn't do it.
I think this is a great way to wrap up your fighting career. Yeah. Hopefully for part 2, we continue this conversation.
For sure.
Thanks so much, George.
Right.
Appreciate it. Yeah.